right, let's continue talking about the garden in the back here that I have. So this garden gets some shade in versus to the front garden that gets all sun all day long where the sun is shining. But back here, eventually it will become shady in the evening hours, which is really good for some of these things that I have planted back here. So this garden was planted about a month ago, and I'm actually still planting some things today because I actually found some areas where some stuff didn't come up. I was able to move and transplant a couple things so that I could create some more rows. And it is getting pretty late in the season for some of these things. Like I planted some different squashes and pumpkins and stuff like that, and zucchini. But and beans. It's where beans are going to be okay. They'll be all right. But I wanted to go ahead and do it because we will use this garden after it's done to house our pigs for the winter time. So this will be some of the pigs' winter home because it has a nice, good, secure fence, and there's a hot wire as well. So if some of the stuff doesn't actually grow that well or come to actual fruition where we can go ahead and harvest it, where it's not ripe enough, the pigs are going to be able to partake in it, which is a fabulous way to offset buying feed and stuff like that, especially in the wintertime where they can't go out and forage and dig up all the roots and the grasses and weeds and everything that they like to do. So that's my hopes with doing that. That's my husband suggested that. It was a really great idea. So I just maximize every little space that I possibly could. And we'll see that maybe we get to eat it, or that definitely the pigs will get it. So in the end, we still get to eat it, don't we? So let's deep dive into all the stuff that I have back here in the back garden, and grab that journal and a pen, and I hope you'll be able to learn some things and take some notes that you can implement yourself or for next year. Hey everybody, welcome to the back garden. I wanted to go into deep diving into the back garden, to the transformation that I was able to do today with the help of the husband of doing some tilling. Sorry, my no-till friends, but we do tilling here. And I wanted to go ahead and talk about everything that I have in this back garden and some of the stuff I'm even planting now. This garden was planted about a month ago, and I see a lot of videos on YouTube that show these beautiful gardens with so many beautiful things, and it's all green, and there's fruit and veggies just dripping from all the vines. But not when you first plant a garden. It's actually kind of ugly. It's usually lots of weeds because you can't determine where's the weed versus the plant itself. And there's a lot of brown because of the dirt. Or if you do the no-till, there's probably wood chips, which are still brown. So I wanted to show the back here, and I wanted to go through each of these things that I have growing right now just to kind of give you some tips. So I suggest that you grab your garden journal and a pen, and maybe you'll learn some stuff that you'll be able to implement this year or for next year. Back garden has had a complete transformation. As you can see, it is beautiful, and so many things have been planted again. And so let's go through the rows real quick. So we've got a marigold there with some cruciferous. Back over there is the purple potted pole beans. We have a marigold again with some more cruciferous, broccoli, cabbage, stuff like that. We have pie pumpkins and something I like to call perfect pumpkins. They were the perfect size. Today we planted some honey nut and Waltham butternut squash along that row. We have black beans that are growing fabulously. We have Brussels sprouts. We have some more Brussels sprouts, and then the rest of the row will be pinto beans. Then this first part of this one is pinto beans and Brussels sprouts. Then we have our oats over here, and another row of pinto beans. Can you tell we like pinto beans? I love refried beans. Then we have 3 rows of different cruciferous, brassicas, cabbage, stuff like that. And in the back we have different squash that I just planted today. All right, hope you got that pen ready. We're going to go ahead and deep dive into everything that I have planted in the back garden, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to write some notes down for next year or anything that you could implement this year as well. So let's get ready. We're going to look at everything, because my whole thing about my Food Prude site and YouTube and wherever else I post is just for everyone to be able to plant whatever they absolutely can, no matter where they're at, even if it's in a container or in a garden like this, or any spot that you can be able to work up in your yard. So I'm going to... All right, let's talk about the famous purple potted pole beans. But this honestly can go for any type of pole bean, not a bush bean, but an actual pole bean. So I'm using my hog panels or cattle panels with rebar to hold them in. I'm giving the maximum amount of space for those bad boys to grow up so I can get as much or as many beans on each single seed that I planted. So I like to go ahead and just plant them in pretty close. I plant them on this side, I plant them on that side, And while I'm weeding out here today, I actually have to do some training on some of them. Some of them were able to kind of go on up there and, you know, start to climb on their own. Some needed some help because they were hanging out on the side. So I'm just kind of go ahead and just kind of like pushing them in there just so that their little tiny hairs can keep grasping on and keep growing for about 8 to 10 feet up these beautiful things and back down. And then they're going to have beautiful purple blooms and purple beans. So this is what we are working on for the famous purple potted pole beans. But again, this will go for any type of pole beans, and the more space you give them, the more you'll get. Okay, like I mentioned before, some of this stuff is kind of in theory for the pigs if it doesn't work out for us. So I have lots of squash and zucchini and pumpkins and those kind of things that can cross-pollinate. So I will not seed save because I have so many packed in the back here. But it will not affect the fruit for this year, only if I was to seed save from them, and only if they got cross-pollinated. So I still may save some, but I'm going to mark it for pigs only. And then, hey, maybe it'll work out, maybe they won't. But some of the stuff back in the garden, I've just planted today. And it is the end of June, so I don't have a whole lot of time. But we're going to go ahead and overwinter our pigs back here. Again, there's the said pigs right there, the 2 boars. And whoever else that is going to be around back here in this garden area, because the fencing is nice and strong and secure for them. So what? So maybe the plants don't actually produce much for me, but maybe they do for me, and I can harvest for myself. If they don't, there's going to be lots of green stuff back here for them to eat, maybe unripe stuff that they will absolutely go ahead and eat, or maybe I can just, or either or, both or whatever. So some may work, some may not, but I'm still going to go ahead and give it a try. So even though it is the end of June, I'm still planting as much as I can and squeezing in so many things in this garden. All right, here's my row of black beans right here. And what I've done, they're a couple inches tall. They're doing pretty good. Nothing really has been eating them back here in this garden, so I'm thankful for that so far. If I do start to see stuff getting eaten, I will start with DE first. And if that doesn't work, then I'll have to move to the Monterey spray with spinosad, and usually just takes 1 application of that stuff, and that isn't for organic practices. And we use that for our potato beetles as well. So here's the black beans. I have 2 poles right here, as you can see. There's 2 at the other end, which is hard to see, and I have 2 strings, and these are your bush beans. And these are your dry beans. So why I'm doing this string right here, if you can see, these will grow up and they will kind of drape over it. This way that when they go to dry out, they're not all over the ground. There's able to get some airflow in between all of them, and it'll help them not get mold, and I can successfully take them and use them for dry beans. So here's black beans. Again, I use these as dry beans. I love them. We use them a lot. So I've got several rows everywhere scattered around. So they're a really good thing to do too. So that's normally a bush bean. You don't need to give them any support, but because they're dry beans, I want to let them dry on the vine, and then during the winter we will pick them apart and then can them up and eat them. Here are my Brussels sprouts. Now these little babies were just smothered in weeds, and I was able to kind of come out here in a couple different rows. I actually had several rows of these planted. Some of them did not come up, or some were just sparse. So what I did was kind of move my rows around and replant some of them over so I could take a whole row and plant for something else. So these are, they're really hard to tell. Sometimes this is a weed right here. Don't need that. There's probably some more weeds. They are definitely close and clumped together. I'm just going to leave them that way. I'm kind of just using the method of just having lots of them crammed in, and then help with weed suppression. And to be honest, I don't have a lot of hope for these. The last 2 years in the front garden, aphids have just completely destroyed all the Brussels sprouts, and I am not picking apart little tiny Brussels sprouts full of aphids. Like, it's not going to happen. So the pigs will get them if there's a bunch of aphids again. But so I just go ahead and just let them, they get really big, but I'm just going to let them kind of hang out and do their own thing. I think it kind of successfully works when you kind of shove stuff together for weed suppression, and they kind of support each other up. So Brussels sprouts. Now here, you think, well, I may think myself, that I'm actually cultivating weeds, and I absolutely could be cultivating weeds. I'm hoping though that these are what I left behind for the most part are going to be oats, and thanks to the honey stud who gave me who talks about it on one of her podcasts or on one of her YouTube videos, that she uses when they're at the milky stage, it does something medicinally. I thought it was cool. I can't even remember why, but I want to go ahead and do it. So I'm hoping that these are not weeds, and I'm actually growing some oats, but we shall see, won't we? Now, back here, all you can see is dirt, correct, right? So I decided to just go ahead. I had this little space back here. What else can I go ahead and throw in? So after the husband went and tilled up all the dirt, which again, this dirt back here is very harsh and, well, hard, and clay, so it's kind of hard. So I just made big mounds of dirt like this. And I don't actually like planting in mounds, because what I feel is when it rains or you use your sprinkler, the water literally just runs right off and it's kind of wasteful. But I made these like big trenches here, and I used all the soft dirt on each side, and I pushed them all together so that the ground was a little softer for at least a few inches until the till they need to break through, the roots break through and stuff like that. So I've got some different kinds of butternut squash and zucchini back here, and I mounded them up. And I put big trenches in there so that the water will stay and not just run off, because again, I don't really like the mounding of what they suggest sometimes. Not my thing. All right, now let's move on to our cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, Chinese broccoli, something else, I'm sure. Okay, I already said cabbage. Anyways, you get the point. Brassica family, cruciferous family, however you want to say it, kind of family. I have them tightly packed in here. For some odd reason, I have this row a lot closer together than this row, but I think it's because I had the kids help me. But nonetheless, I'm using it again for weed suppression and just to kind of support each other as they grow. There's plenty of nutrients in all the soil. So that they will be able to grow, and I like to go ahead and just maximize all the space that I have. So that's what I'm working with here. Some of these, there's a couple cabbages that are just like, stop the sun, lady, but I can't stop the sun, sorry. So you're just gonna have to toughen up their buttercup. There's another one, but some of them are fine. And then you also see there's some eggshells in there too. Ann of all trades suggested that to use eggshells for any critters or little bugs. It's kind of like a replacement for DE to help get rid of any pests that may be eaten. Again, most of these actually do not have a whole lot of eaten parts. This one I noticed that some of them did over here, so I went through the eggshells on here that I literally just used this last 2 days in some breakfast casseroles and stuff like that. So we're going to just leave them there and see if it helps. If not, it always adds calcium to the ground, right? So it's all good. These cruciferous guys here, the broccoli and such, this is planted where my hoop house used to be, which is now moved over here because the beans itself are nitrogen fixers. They fix the soil. They're fabulous things. So even if you don't even like beans, but you have space, throw some bean seeds in to help your soil break up and become more nutritious for the other things. So these guys are heavy feeders. So that means they need a lot of nutrients. So I like to put them where the beans were before, so they can kind of help offset some of the nutrition that they need. So that's something you can do as well. Here is my daughter's little patch that she likes to hopefully take care of more than I have to take care of, but we're trying. She's 6. So she grabbed a bunch of seeds like beans and pole beans, bush beans, and peas, and she just kind of packed them all in here. And you can see this is just an old piece of fencing, a small thing. We use some rebar to just kind of pound it in, and then they'll allow the peas and beans to kind of use that as support and climb up, and then they know they can kind of come out here and eat whatever they want when it starts growing. So that's her cute little garden area. All right, here is a marigold. I have 3 of them in this back garden, and I can never successfully start flowers or even really grow flowers, to be honest with you, but somehow I can do 600 seedlings of vegetables but not flowers. But these ones are actually working, and I'll show you the other 2 in just a second. Actually, I'll walk over there and show you. I have the other 2 going on over here amongst the lettuce that I have that I had in the house and I transplanted out here. This, I think there's some kind of mustard thing that's taking over that I will not eat. And then I think there is some spinach in there though. I have to kind of go in and looks like I need to double check things, right? I planted some beets and some other spinach and stuff over here, and you can see the little guys start popping up. But this soil is pretty hard for them to grow in. It's pretty dense. So here's my other 2 marigolds, along with the 2 boars and 2 chickens that like to hang out together. But so the marigolds are good for your garden to repel pests, and I believe that they are edible, but I'd have to double check again. But so that's exciting. So got them working, and it'll just be pretty at the entryway to my famous pole beans.